So here's the first thing we covered today. Is first we just talked again about the area of a square or rectangle. Remember, we just multiply length times width to get our area. But today we're going to be talking about manipulating equations. So say if I had an equation that said solve for W, or W is, give me an equation for W, something along those lines, then I would be trying to get W by itself. And I would remember that since multiplication and addition are friends and subtraction and division are friends, then that means I would want to send the enemy and not the friend. So for multiplication here, I'm going to send division. So divide out L. Sorry, I went through out there. Remember, addition and subtraction are enemies. And here I was just kind of covering, remember with volume, you just find the area of the face, so right there, the rectangle, and then you multiply that by the depth. I just remember usually they'll do length, width, and height on this one. They might do depth. Who knows? Just multiply all three numbers on this kind of thing. But we go down here. This is especially helpful with these more different shaped ones. For example, the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And if you have trouble remembering that, just remember that base times height would be a rectangle, and if you cut a rectangle in half, you get two triangles. And that's a W there. So remember, if we just multiply that area equation by that W, by that width, that extra back width, then that's how we get our volume. Excuse me. Alright, and then here we are going to solve the volume for W. So I'm going to bring it over here, where I got some more space to write it again. So I'm going to rewrite the volume equation back out. V equals 1/2. It takes me a little while longer to write on this than it does on the board. So 1/2 BHW. The first thing you want to get rid of is generally the number. It's usually the easiest way to go about things. So one way to do this would be to multiply by the reciprocal, or flip it and multiply by the same thing, or by what you got when you flipped. Because then you can cross out tops and bottoms that are the same. Remember, what we do to one side, we have to do to the whole other side. If it helps, you can put V over 1 to remember you're multiplying straight across. So we get 2V equals BHW. And if we think back to our enemies and friends, if we want to get rid of someone, we're going to send their enemy. And the enemy of multiplication over there is division. So we're going to divide by B and H to get those out of the way. Oh, not B and B. B and H. Woo, so that we're only left with W. And so we can see that W equals 2V over BH. And since they're both equal, it really doesn't matter what side, like I can flip those two equal signs if I want it. Like I could write W on one side and then write 2V over BH on the other, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. They're equal, so it doesn't matter which side the equal sign I write. Now let's say I was in the middle of a test and I got nervous and I didn't have the foresight to say, I don't know, divide by B and H at the same time. So I'm going to show you another way to solve this, just in case you ever get stuck. So here's the equation we started out with. And maybe instead of multiplying by the reciprocal, you said, oh, we're multiplying, let's divide. That's cool, you can do that. So maybe we'll divide by 1/2, huh? Now, remember when we divide fractions, that means we're going to flip and multiply. We're going to flip and multiply. If it helps, then remember you can always write this out the old-fashioned way, like the way you probably saw it the very first way you learned fractions with the old division sign. If it helps you remember to flip and multiply, whatever helps you is fine. So we're still going to end up with 2v on this side, and that is still going to cross out our 1/2. So, you know, like I said, this way still works great. Now, this time I'm going to say, oh, what if I thought, okay, we're just going to get rid of one at a time. I'm going to divide by h and get rid of my h. It's right there next to the w, so let's get it out of w's hair. So then I ended up with 2v over h, and I'm getting there. Remember, I record these while I'm watching what I've done already. Alright, so get rid of h, so 2v over h equals bw. So now I've got to get rid of that b, but I've already got a fraction thing going on, so I don't really want to divide again. But I'm going to remember that with my identities, I can always put that over 1 and turn that into a fraction. And then I could multiply by the reciprocal if I wanted to. So I could just flip that over and multiply by the reciprocal. There we go. This is why I remember those identities, because if we get stuck, we can just start adding them in there and see if something looks a little familiar. And over here, I'm going to multiply this side by 1 over b as well. And remember, with our multiplication, we multiply straight across. So we're just multiplying by 1 at the top, and we're going to multiply by b at the bottom, so we still end up with 2v over bh. So see, we got there, we got the same answer, even when we got nervous, and we didn't do things necessarily the quickest way. It doesn't matter, we still got the right answer. It's okay. Everything turned out all right in the end, and that's the most important thing. So let's go see these we've done. Haha! Okay, if you have not done the assignment yet, then pause the show. Let me show you. Put some rainbows on here, so you remember, pause the show, because I gave one of the answers in class after everyone had worked. So if you haven't done the in-class assignment, then don't watch this part yet. Oh, math is so beautiful. Woo. Okay, I'm assuming you paused it, and then now you're starting it again. And so now I'll show you how we solved the Celsius equation for Fahrenheit. So C, or Celsius, equals 5 over 9 times F for Fahrenheit minus 32. Now, the easiest way to look at this is to notice that 5 over 9 is one term and the whole thing in the parentheses is another term, and just get rid of the 5 over 9 first. One way to do that would be to multiply by the reciprocal. You could divide both sides by 5 over 9 if you wanted. That'd be totally fine. I'm going to show you with multiplying by the reciprocal in this case. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 9 over 5. And then anything that's the same on the top on one and the bottom on the other cancels. So kaboom! That cancels. And I end up with 9 over 5 C equals. Now, remember, if you forget what to do with the parentheses, whether they can go away or not, just add our little identity back there. Put the 1 in, and then distribute the 1. That's totally fine. You can always multiply by 1. And now we see that we have to redistribute that, and that we just end up with our f minus 32. So now to get rid of that minus, we're going to send the enemy and send plus in there. So we're going to add 32 to both sides. And we end up, and just look at what you have. Remember to just stop and look at what you have. Don't change anything. Don't suddenly change it to multiplication. Don't suddenly change things to anything. Just say, okay, up there I had that plus 32, so down here it's going to be that plus 32. And then negative 32 plus 32 is 0. So we've got just f there. And that is the answer right there. I will show you at the end distribution, the long and hard road of distribution, should you be curious, but I'm going to save that for the And so also, again, you may have gotten an answer that looks different than mine, but that's totally fine. Like maybe you got the C up there with the 9. Cool. Plus 32. That's the same thing. I'm good with that answer. Or, maybe you wrote the 32 first. Remember, we just talked about the communicative property. Doesn't matter which order you write addition. In fact, doesn't matter what order you write multiplication, really. So you could write it this way if you like. Bam. Some of you have issues with fractions, I've been learning. So, you gotta write 32 though. So maybe you did 32 plus